our regular city commission meeting to order. We please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge of allegiance to the flag of our country. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity we have together here this evening. And Lord, we ask that you bless this city commission. And Lord, you give us the knowledge and the wisdom that you want us to have to make the decisions that are in the best interest of our constituents. And dear Lord, please be with all of us, all our first responders and city employees as they go about their day-to-day work to make this a beautiful town to live in. And please, Lord, look after the Ukrainians over there, Lord, and just look after them, Lord. This is all these things we ask in precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, first on the agenda this evening is the approval of our minutes from our March 24th meeting. They've been distributed. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, we need a motion. So moved. We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. This motion carried unanimously. Next, Mr. Jeff Boone. There he goes. Well, come on up, sir.
Thank you.
Says here, moderate Democrat for Congress. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, City Commission. Thank you, members of the Winter Garden community, for the opportunity to come out here to speak as well as to address you all, to talk about my campaign. My wife and I, we've been members of the Hunters Creek community since 2000. Prior to that, I worked as a Wall Street banker, came from New York City, started my career at the Federal Reserve. I was also a former three-time student government president, Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx, New York, Colgate University of State New York, as well as middle school. I've been on the community planning board for Manhattan as a mayoral appointee for David Dinkins, the first African-American mayor. And then we moved down here, and I've served 2 tours of duty as a community coach for over 20 years while engaging with youth in recreation sports, as well as tutoring, and made sure all of my students that I coached them from 7 to 17 years old, 2 tours of duty doing that, about 20 years, to make sure all of them not only graduated, some of them went on to college, played college football, basketball, one playing pro baseball. But his dad was a New York Yankee, so I won't take credit for his success. As part of my platform, though, is part of finding ways to utilize my business and financial experience to help the business, the public and private sectors working together to help educate, train, and employ community members. So as I said, I'm a moderate. Some things a little bit more liberal in terms of education, some things a little bit more conservative in terms of supporting police and making sure we do that, though. Anybody who thinks about defunding the police did not grow up in D-Hood. I grew up in D-Hood of New York, and I know how important the police are in terms of our protection, our safety. Members of my family, from DEA all the way down to state, local police, as well as down to corrections and recidivism in terms of youth corrections and so forth, though. So I know how important that is. But back to education, which is the source of obviously social mobility, everything in terms of increasing childhood, education, early childhood, some of the things from the Build Back America program, through community college, as well as, we just gave kids 12 years of public school, and most of our kids go to public school. And we need to find a way to think about it in Congress, that we can balance our budget and give them free community college though. And we'll cut their student debt in half from 4 years to 2. It will cut parent debt in half as well too. Parents are taking out student loans. In addition to that, some of these kids might go on to get their AA degrees, but for a lot of kids, it is a concern about the student loan, and we have a lot of problems with student loan debt right now. Even the moratorium interest is still accruing, I can assure you. And then as far as education, increasing teacher salaries. So many people that we engage with out here in the community talk about education, they love to teach, but the salaries are so low. We have to find a way to treat them with the respect they need as far as being like first responders, salaries and so forth. If we can't reach you as first responders, at least 1A. Then also economic development. I have a business background, so I'm in favor of tax incentives for businesses for creating jobs, as well as hiring local residents in urban, as well as rural and impoverished areas. I've seen a lot of economic development in New York when I was in Manhattan Community Planning Board. It helped in impoverished areas such as Harlem, New York, that it has now. Big uplift that it can help areas like Pine Hills, Paramore, throughout the entire congressional district. I come from an area that does very well, but it has good community involvement. We need that throughout our entire community district, our congressional district. Then also tax benefits for businesses that have certain research expenses still, and fast-growing industries like manufacturing, IT, defense, aerospace, and so forth. These tax benefits are out there. We need to market it because Florida has great tax benefits for companies and great tax benefits for individuals, no tax at all. And then also job training for returning workers, such as millennials, veterans, as well as returning workers that want to migrate from the hospitality and tourism to some of these other fast-growing industries that we just talked about. And then also housing, economic development for real estate developers getting the benefits to create more housing as well as increase our supply. The problems that we're having right now, we don't need to really think about so much rent freezes as much as increasing inventory. We have to find a way to balance between the renters' needs and the high prices, rents being increased, but also the developers. If you cap the freeze, you freeze the rent, development's going to choke off them. So there's to find a way to balance both sides and bring both sides together there as well. And as I said too about improving police community relations, my father and uncle started a Harlem Police Athletic League, and I certainly would like to find ways to improve police community relations throughout our congressional district in terms of diversity hiring, diversity training, diversity pairing with officers though. But we go through the corporate world each year. We go through diversity, equity, and inclusion certifications. We go through sexual harassment certification, as well as discrimination and racism, these type of things going through the police. We're making our police departments the best in the country. I think our congressional district is certainly doing well. It's very diverse. We want to continue its prosperity. And certainly if we can make this district, in terms of improving the quality of life, I think it'll be the best congressional district in the entire state of Florida. So I ask for your support. Please look at our website, jeffboone4congress.com. That's JEFFBOONE for Congress.com. Please support us. Look at the issues that we're talking about. The donate button. We love donations. We love volunteers as well too. And if you click our petition, you have to get 2,500 signatures to run. Part of our democratic process from Washington to Biden. 2,500 signatures to run, or you pay the government $11,000. I think there's one thing I can identify in this campaign already that Republicans and Democrats will both agree on. None of us wants to pay the government $11,000. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Whereas water is a basic and essential need of every living creature, and whereas clean and sustainable water resources are vital to Florida's environment, economy, and quality of life, and whereas more than 90% of Florida's drinking water is supplied by underlying aquifers, our quality of life and the economy depend upon a reliable, clean, and available supply of water and a healthy environment. And whereas the state of Florida, the St. Johns River Water Management District, and the City of Winter Garden are working together to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation and to increase their efforts to conserve water. And whereas all water users, including residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, institutional, hospitality, private citizens, and others can make positive contributions to reduce water use and protect Florida's water resources. And whereas the state of Florida has designated April, typically a dry month when water demands peak, as Florida's Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources. Therefore, it is my great pleasure and privilege as the mayor of the City of Winter Garden to proclaim the month of April 2022 as Florida's Water Conservation Month and call upon the residents and businesses of Winter Garden to do their share to protect this precious resource by practicing water-saving measures and increasing awareness of the need to safeguard and conserve water. Thank you. And if you have anything you would like to say, okay.
The City of Winter Garden participates each year with the annual Drop Savers Poster Contest, and it's sponsored by the American Water Works Association, the Florida section. This year we had 84 participants from 6 schools, and those schools were Star Child Academy, Whispering Oak Elementary, Sunridge Elementary, Lake Whitney Elementary, Foundation Academy, and West Orange High School. But now on to the important thing, the winners. So, there were 5 divisions, and the first winner, and I need more hands. Can we help? Hold this. Thank you. anyway, there are 5 divisions. Division 1, which was kindergarten through 1st grade, our winner was Harper Lopata. Okay, here you are, congratulations. And our Division 2 winner, Jacob Lindner. Blinder. Yes, right. Our Division 3 winner is, we're 4th and 5th graders, Linza Hersey. And our middle school winner, Gianna Francis. And our high school winner, Rasa Mesa Martinez. Now, in addition to the winners that the Winter Garden panel selected, the schools, the elementary schools also submitted some winners. And because we want to actually start talking to these kids at an early age, we wanted to recognize the school winners as well. So from Whispering Oak Elementary, we have Sam Egoff. Is that Sam? Okay.
Is Sam here
Oh,
tonight?
he's right here. I'm
Sorry, Sam.
And from Star Child Academy, we have Addison Lynn. From Lake Whitney Elementary, we have Vincent Marcus. And from Sunridge Elementary, we have Brenda Villingus. Okay, but another thing, I also want to recognize the teachers because they already have a lot to do. They have a lot on their plate, and for them to take a couple of days to talk a little bit more about water conservation, to have the kids do this, we greatly appreciate it so that we can all come and see this once a year. So we're excited about it. All right, from Star Child Academy, Maria Savia,
Savia, I'm gonna,
accepting.
I'm gonna accept them.
From Foundation Academy, Adriana Ullman. Yes. Angela Gray from Star Child. Monica Marcus from West Orange High School. And Lori Donnelly from Star Child. Vivian Alfonso from Whispering Oak. Andrea Strachko from Star Child Academy. Rosa Gracie, Lake Whitney Elementary. And Alicia Douglas from Sunridge Elementary. Thank you. So now they know a lot about water conservation, so if you need some advice, ask them. All right, and if you want to come up and take a picture.
Yeah, don't move.
Yes,
We got
want a
down
picture.
professionally.
All right.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Donna Corbett, Sustainability Coordinator. That made a few times already. So we're going to talk about fog. And it's really scary. It lurks in our drains. Fog. That spoils and grease. And our goal is to educate residents and businesses about fog in order lards, oil, shortening, butter, margarine, food, scraps, sauces, and dairy products, all the good stuff. It sticks to the inside of sewer pipes. And fog can cause major problems in homes and businesses as well as the city's sewage system when it gets washed down the drain or flushed down the toilet. Now you may think people don't do that, but yes, they do. In Winter Garden, 55% of sewage backups are related to tap oils and grease. It can take city staff just a few minutes or actually weeks to clear a line. Cost of repairs can be just a few dollars or into the tens of thousands when we have to do a whole lot of work. Lift station pumps often have to be replaced because of fat oils and grease. What we want to do is create an ongoing awareness with geographical emphasis to target certain areas to help prevent this grease buildup, because the alternative is a lot more expensive. So when grease attacks, it comes to your wallet first. It comes for your wallet. What we want to do is have a high impact and colorful visuals. As you can see here, this is one of our grease monsters. These emerging as these get in the drains, and we want to bring attention to these grease monsters to help prevent such from happening. We plan to do, these are just some of our options, outdoor advertising, maybe particularly where certain restaurants are, because it's not just homeowners that do it, it's businesses as well. Traditional or digital advertising. We'll have brochures and print advertisements, and this is going to be a series over the next few years, so we'll do a little something every year. Facebook ads, display ads, and one of the things we're working on right now is, one of the things we want to do is try to get people to can their grease, put it in a can, cover it, and it goes in the trash. It doesn't go in the drain, down the drain, or in the toilet. So, we think, and we're hoping, and I believe it's going to happen. We're going to educate people that not to use their sink and their toilet as a trash. And thank you.
Proclamation 22-05. Whereas autism spectrum disorders are a broad range of conditions characterized by repetitive patterns of behavior and challenges with social skills, speech, and nonverbal communication. And whereas autism spectrum disorders affect at least 1 in 44 children and over 5 million adults in the United States of all genders, races, ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds. And whereas early, accurate diagnosis and appropriate education, intervention, and support are vital to the well-being of those with autism spectrum disorders. And whereas persons with an autism spectrum disorder should have access to the care, services, and opportunities needed to be happy and achieve their greatest potential. And whereas the City of Winter Garden is honored to take part in the annual observance of World Autism Month and World Autism Awareness Day, with the hope that will lead to more research and better understanding and acceptance of autism spectrum disorder. Therefore, it is my great pleasure and privilege as a mayor of the City of Winter Garden to proclaim April 20, 2022 as World Autism Month and April 2nd, 2022 as World Autism Awareness Day in Winter Garden to raise public acceptance and understanding of autism spectrum disorder, as well as to increase knowledge of the efforts that have been and are being made to support individuals with autism spectrum disorder and their families.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we're gonna, Victor has a couple words to say. Right, buddy, you gonna speak up? Would you like to do it right here, or would you like to do it right here? Okay, you gonna speak up? Okay, nice and loud. Go ahead. Okay.
My name's Victor Wright. I live with Winter Garden, Florida.
garden. I want to thank Mayor John for being my friend, always supporting me. You know, families with autism. May God bless all of you. And God bless Woods Garden. Thank you.
Just like to say, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Just a couple things. We've been with John Mayer for over 10 years doing this, and so important for our community. We started Dillard Elementary. We got Dr. Susan Henley been with us from the door, and she's just been a miracle worker when we didn't know what to do. Stayed with us all the way through. We went through for West Orange High School, and now there's a farm here called Special Hearts Farms. It's in Winter Garden. If you don't know, you should find out about it because it's doing amazing things about job skills that's happening right here in our city here. So the support, it is a community. And as a community, we're helping because now we're getting ready to get to the workforce and so forth. So personally, thank you. Thank you again.
Okay, next we'll move to our first reading and public hearing of proposed ordinances. Ordinance 22-08.
Yes, sir. Ordinance 22-08, an ordinance of the city of Winter Garden, Florida, amending chapter 2, Roman numeral 5, section 2-256, sub A of the Winter Garden Code of Ordinances relating to municipal elections, amending the qualifying period for registration of candidates, and providing for codification, conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
City Clerk.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, there's a conflict between the city code registration of candidates, period, and the Florida state statutes requirements for mailing out overseas vote-by-mail ballots. A time frame in the city code for registering or qualifying candidates for city elected offices, it currently conflicts with the Florida state statutes. The statutes require that the county mail out the vote-by-mail ballots no later than 45 days before the general election. The mail-out is sent to absent uniformed services voters and the overseas voters requesting the vote-by-mail ballot. Currently, that 45th day before the standard city March general election, it falls just a couple of days within the current city qualifying period. And so the proposed remedy that we thought staff would think that to issue this would be to set the qualifying period back by 2 weeks, allowing time for the qualifying period to end, time for the review and proof of the sample ballot, time for the county and supervisor of elections to get them printed, mailed out, and to the overseas electorate. So with that, staff would recommend approval of ordinance 2208, which sets the candidate's qualifying period back by 2 weeks. And we anticipate a second reading. It was April 28th, but it looks like May 10th would be for a second reading. Staff would recommend approval.
May 12th.
May 12th?
Thank you. What does that put us in, December, or are we still January?
No, we're still in January.
First two weeks in January.
And the reasoning behind that, just so over the years, I've heard that nobody wants to campaign during the holidays. That does not affect your presidential preference primary though. That would still be November. But that was just a thought that, nobody ever wanted to campaign over the holidays. So this is just,
I want to campaign anytime.
nobody.
Well, they will be clarified from us. Okay, so we're going back to the first Tuesday in January. Is there any questions?
Happy New Year.
Any questions from the commission?
Just one, sir, I was gonna ask for one slight change to section 2.256, and that would be the first Tuesday following the first Monday in January of the election year. That way, that Tuesday never falls on New Year's Day, so we don't have to modify it.
Well, no, you're not, it clarifies in here, if it falls on that, and there's a holiday.
Then you have to extend it.
You extend it 1 day
So
automatically.
this gets rid of that provision altogether, because it'll never physically happen.
Kurt?
Hydrant. Because then you can end up the second week of January,
Right.
and
So-
that could be a problem.
Yeah, so the last sentence of 2-56 says, if any city recognized holiday falls within the 7-day registration period, the registration period shall be extended by the same number of holidays. So if it fell on a, I guess from the Angie standpoint, does that solve your problem?
If it falls
That
on.
last sentence?
Yes, it does. And I looked into that. It looks like the only time this would be affected, I have a calendar, unfortunately, through 2035. And it looks like 2030 would be where that might have been an issue, but we don't have an election.
But if we did.
We're going to four-year
So
terms
50
now.
years out, if we did, then with this language.
That language fixes everything,
Okay.
and it bumps it, and it won't bump it too many weeks to get close to those periods.
I mean, the
It
problem.
just cleans it up, yeah, it cleans it up some, but it's up to the commission.
It's already written. Semantics.
So let it be. Any other questions? No. This is a public hearing. We will open the public hearing if anyone wishes to speak. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We need a motion.
Well, quick question. Is this going to be this second reading?
The second reading is gonna be the May,
May
we
12th.
said 12.
May
May
12th.
12th, so that's part of the motion as well.
Move to approve the second reading being on May 12th at
There you go.
6:30 PM sharp.
Okay, second that motion. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried unanimously. Ordinance 22-09.
Yes, sir. Ordinance 22-09, an ordinance of the city of Winter Garden, Florida, amending section 78-38 of chapter 78, article Roman 2 of the Winter Garden Code of Ordinances concerning connection to water and wastewater systems and requirements for utility services to properties located outside of the city limits, providing for codification, severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This ordinance amends section 78-38 of the city code concerning connection to water and wastewater. It only clarifies an existing exception that you must annex to receive sewer and/or water. The exception is only for those properties that are within the town of Oakland that have been provided reclaimed water and wastewater services through an interlocal agreement. Staff would recommend approval of ordinance 2209, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the commission? This is a public hearing. We will open the public hearing if anyone wishes to speak. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. We need a motion.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 22-09 with staff recommendations with a second reading public hearing on May 12th.
We have a motion approved. We have a second.
April 28th.
No, we're not doing it April 20th, May 12th.
Oh, my apologies.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Are you opposed?
I post on that.
Okay, 4-1. Gotcha. We're good. Ordinance 22-11.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 22-11, an ordinance enacted pursuant to section 125.01 subsection 1 subsection Q, Florida statutes consenting to the expansion of the Orange County Lake Roberts Municipal Service Benefit Unit to include certain properties surrounding Lake Reed located within the city of Winter Garden and the levy of special assessments on those benefited properties to pay a portion of the costs of lake maintenance, water quality improvement, and cleaning, and providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you. City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Back in 2009, Orange County created the Lake Roberts MSBU for general lake cleaning, water quality improvement, maintenance, and aquatic plant control. With the creation of that MSBU back then, the city was required to consent to the Lake Roberts MSBU, which would allow the levy of special assessments on certain benefited properties. Since that time, we had a group of residents, Ms. Martha Ward being the champion within Windermere Crossing, to have the MSBU expanded to include Lake Reeves. Their efforts paid off on March 22nd when the county approved the resolution amending the original Lake Roberts MSBU to include Lake Reeves for the aquatic maintenance. So
So ordinance 2211 consents to the expansion of the MSBU to include certain properties surrounding Lake Reeves for the benefit of special assessments. Staff would recommend a motion to approve ordinance 22-11 with the second reading and public hearing scheduled for May 12th. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from the commission?
Just a comment, just to thank staff for all the work on this. It's been a long time. You're gonna have a lot of happy residents. It was a problem, and Commissioner Wilson also. So thanks to the county staff and city staff, so thank you. Really appreciate it.
Any other comments? This is a public hearing. We will open the public hearing if anyone wishes to speak. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and we need a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance 22-11 with staff recommendations with second reading and hearing on May 12th.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Regular business, resolution 22-04.
Yes, sir, resolution 22-04, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Winter Garden, Florida, adopting a non-ad valorem assessment to fund costs associated with city actions in rectifying and mitigating the deterioration of the Stony Brook West Golf Club property and ensuring preservation of such property in perpetuity as open space, as a golf course, and/or for other public recreational purposes, imposing and apportioning such non-ad valorem assessment upon and among the residential lots within the Stony Brook West subdivision, approving an assessment roll for the fiscal year 2023, establishing the lien associated with the special assessment and providing for release of liens, directing that the assessment roll be certified to the Orange County Tax Collector, providing for collection methods and penalties, providing for reallocation in the event of future lot splits and combinations, making findings with respect to special benefit and apportionment method, providing for other matters related to imposition and administration of the special assessment, and providing for severability, conflicts, and effective date.
Who wrote that? Thank you, sir. Hey, that worked.
One long breath.
Lord.
Good evening, Mayor Commissioners. This is a resolution to establish a special assessment for the Stony Brook West community to purchase the golf course property via the special assessment. An agreement has been made between the city and the HOA. This resolution is the second public hearing, which will adopt the special assessment. Staff recommends approval of this resolution. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have.
Questions from the commission?
So I think we've got a lot of residents who've been looking forward to this.
Mr. Sherman, actually, so, and I'm all for this, but it does leave some language in there that can be used for things other than a golf course.
They have to come back in front of the commission if it was anything other than a green space or golf course.
Okay, sir, thank you very much.
No problem. So, okay.
In my mind.
Okay, we need a motion.
Public comment there.
Oh, for this? Okay. Public comment. We'll open up if anyone wishes to speak. Yes, sir. Come on up here.
Come to the podium, Mayor?
Yes, sir. You might give your name and address,
All that good stuff.
social security number.
It's on the public there. Mark Cressman, my address is in Stony Brook West, 2341 Barron's Meeting Court, Winter Garden, Florida, 34787. I'm not opposed to this ordinance. I mean, I think it amounts to less than $100 a year, if I'm understanding the assessment. So it's not a financial issue. $100 can be, frankly, give me a break. My concern is the keeping the golf course a golf course or green space, etc. If there are sections or portions of this course that are amenable to either being converted to some type of commercial type property, I'm thinking along, if you're familiar with the area down there where Walgreens is, and there's some area down there, if there's some opportunity to then change a portion of this property into a commercial property, such that then the residents can sell off that section to eventually pay down the note, if you will, I think that makes perfect sense. So to restrict it, say it can only be a golf course, it can only be green space, I think puts too much of a burden on the property and on the HOA. Give the HOA an opportunity to explore other opportunities, what they can do with, of course, I'm not saying put a movie theater up in the middle of, T box number 10 or whatever it is that may be in the back of the community, but at least give the HOA an opportunity. And I'm not sure that maybe the ordinance does allow for that, but they have to come back in and question it, or come back in and request it from the council. Why not let the HOA operate it like a business, and if they can sell off a slice of it to then pay down the note, it seems to make perfect money sense. And then the last part of it is, I know when the prior owner had the property before it went into bankruptcy, there was multiple code enforcement issues. I don't know anybody sitting here yet that has gone out and walked that course. I know of at least one property right now where trees have punctured through a screened enclosure, a pool screened enclosure, and torn up a screened enclosure. That's being taken care of. We're making sure that that is being taken care of. But if this is going to be kept as green space, the only thing I'm asking the commission, the mayor and the commission to do is make sure that the property is being maintained, just as if when it was owned by the prior owner, it was being maintained. That's all I have to ask. I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely not opposed to it. Just if you're going to allow them, if we're going to do this, give the HOA an opportunity to operate it kind of like a business, sell off a slice of it, or if they're not going to do that, at least make the HOA maintain the property. It's in much better shape than it was before, I will grant them that, but it's still not being maintained, and there's still problems on the course, and I think it needs to be inspected periodically.
Sure, I'd like to address the mayor. The city transferred the property to the HOA, so the HOA is managing the property now. In order to proceed with this transaction and this assessment, it needs to be open to the public, and the restrictions in the agreement and the documents that have affected or caused this, or allowed this assessment to go forward, contemplate public open space, a golf course, other recreational facilities. So, in order to preserve the integrity of the assessment and the agreement, what Mr. Cressman suggested or requested would be inconsistent with that. However, the agreement, as Mr. Cressman noted, does allow, if there is some request that the HOA has, or the residents of the community have to come back to the city and say, hey, we'd like to do X, Y, or Z, we would look at that, bring it to the commission, and so long as it did not cause any type of an issue or invalidation of the assessments and the agreement, then the commission could approve that moving forward. But the principal idea behind this was, between the HOA and its residents and the city, was the city to be able to do this and preserve that, to keep it from being developed into homes and other private income generating purposes, in order to protect the residents and keep their home values from being deteriorated.
So just for clarification point then, if the HOA, because I mean this is going to be, the HOA to be coming back to the city commission in the future, if they take in Mark's example, then they could come back to the commission and ask for us.
They certainly could come back to that.
Okay.
There's nothing to stop them.
Okay, so they can, okay, very good. Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Dennis Armstrong, Stony Brook West HOA President. Just to comment on Mr. Crispin's thoughts, we surveyed our residents as we worked through this process, and the results were almost unanimous that they did not want to see any type of development, especially commercial, certainly not multifamily residential, and very likely anything other than single-family residential. So my hat's off to the commission and to Mr. Williams and to Mr. Bolhofer for working with us, and certainly Commissioner Sharpen, to come up with an agreement that I believe addresses preserving the golf course property as free space, and hopefully a golf course, but we're still working on that. But that's where we're headed. We understand that you all can't find future commissions, and so having the language in there that allows us to come back and talk with the city commission on changes that might make sense, who knows how many years from now, is a good idea, I think. So I believe there are protections in the ordinance that allow for that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you might have.
Any questions from the commission?
we've been through this. And
Been a long haul, yeah, this is the final, the final hoorah, so thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Dr. Alfonso Blanco, and I live at 14767 Masthead Landing Circle in Winter Garden. I moved from Miami to here about 2 years ago. At that time, the HOA fees were $500 every 3 months. Now it went up to $643, okay, just 6 months from when I moved here. From then, they dropped that down to $610, okay? And they were, saying that they were going to rehab or redo the golf course. To this day, I have not seen anything, not even cutting the grass on that golf course. And we're still paying those HOA fees. So there were people saying that the golf course belonged to, I think it was Camper Insurance, or someone was gonna buy it. And it was back and forth, back and forth. And I'm afraid now that if they redo that golf course, they're gonna increase their fees considerably. Because there's nothing written, okay, that we're gonna be paying $610. So I am concerned that the HOA increases their fees. I mean, we are retired. I am retired. So consequently, I can only afford so much. But they don't tell us anything about what's going on with the golf course. I don't get it on my emails. So they need to keep in touch with the residents. Now, the other thing is that they're charging these fees, okay? I have a small home, 1 floor, and the other people there that have 2 floors and 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. Why would I pay the same HOA fees than the people with 4,000 or 5,000 square feet? That's my concern.
Okay, go ahead. With respect to the gentleman's comments on the difference in the assessment, the appraisal study that the city had with respect to this shows a very substantial increase in benefit to every single home in all of Stony Brook West, far more than what the assessment is. The assessment is a total of $2 million. The benefit is reflected in the ordinance and the study is in excess of 18 million. So each individual home benefits dramatically more than the total assessment they'll pay over that 20-year period. To his question specifically, why is a 2-story home or a larger home, or regardless, why do they pay the same? Every home, based on the study, benefits. Every single home in Stony Brook West benefits by more than this assessment. So the appraiser looked at this and concluded that each of the homes, every home benefited generally with specificity to each home of at least that amount, that 5% amount. So the gentleman's correct, there may be a much better, bigger benefit to another home. However, every home benefited by more than what the assessment is. And rather than prorate it, the city commission has, which home is a larger home or closer proximity to the golf course or other attributes. The fair assessment that staff and the appraiser said was an equal apportionment for that same benefit that every single home gets, of 5%. A little complicated that way, but bottom line, the additional value of the gentleman's home may only benefit by, let's say, $3,000, where a larger home may benefit by $6,000. They both benefit at least up to the $1,800 or whatever.
Greater than the assessed value.
Correct.
Yes, okay. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Chris.
My name is Sonia Crespin, and I live at 2341 Barron Street Court. My husband just spoke. I think, I'm just speaking as a resident there, and for some people it's not a cost prohibitive thing, but I think what the gentleman is trying to explain to you guys is that the golf course is not being maintained. I mean, there's many things that are not being done. I don't know if it's an issue between the city and the HOA, but there's many things that are devaluing our homes rather than increasing values. I know that maybe some homes in there are selling for greater values because of the craziness of the real estate market, but I think what the gentleman's concern is it's not so much the $80 that we're paying to the city. It's our concern that the city is restricting what we're allowed to do with the property that we're buying from the city, that we may not be able to sell off portions of the property or use the portions of it as, such as the golf course clubhouse, because most likely the golf course is never going to be a golf course. I think that many people in Stony Brook or believe that, but it's going to cost millions and millions of dollars to revamp it into a golf course. And they're asking for the residents, which probably people don't understand, for us to contribute about $500,000 a year just to the maintenance of the golf course ongoing. So I don't think it's the issue of what we're paying to the city, it's the issue of what we're paying and what we could, that our dues could go from $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. And I think it's being misrepresented by some of the people, some of the board members of the HOA, that all of the people in Stony Brook were for the purchase of the property. Because what you're not hearing is that there was one vote that was voted down, and then more information came forward, or what the HOA presented as more information, and they had to have a second vote. So it really wasn't a unanimous vote to purchase the property. I don't think that the community as a whole has a problem with purchasing the property from the city, which I think has already really been done. It's just a matter of the taxes at this point in time. But what they're concerned about is the financial responsibility of maintaining that huge amount of space. And in Stony Brook, we pay for a lot of things that other communities within Winter Garden get paid through for tax dollars that we don't. Like, for instance, I'm pretty sure that most of the city streets are swept by sweepers and things like that. Where our community, because we're an HOA and we own our streets, we pay for all that on top of everything else that we pay for our tax dollars. So I think that's what they're asking you to consider when you're voting on this. Not so much the $80 a year that we're going to pay for the property itself, and you can spout all kinds of values that it adds to our properties. I'm not sure that that's 100% accurate, because the golf course is not being maintained. It's being cut. The grass is being cut. There's a few things done, but it really isn't, despite what Dennis and some people are telling you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I may respond, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Our current quarterly assessment is $610. That includes an amount of around $800 a month to maintain the golf course property. I'm sorry, not $100 a month, $100 a quarter, $30 a month, $1 a day is the way we presented it to our residents. The golf course property is being maintained. Certainly we're not maintaining it at the level of a golf course, but the grass is being mowed. We just switched over to twice a month mowing, which is what is the norm for this time of year. Before, it was only being mowed once. We had all of the palm trees trimmed, both the Washingtonians along the Stony Brook West Parkway and the palms within the interior of the property. We're currently working with a vendor to get the irrigation system back up and running. We're currently negotiating with another lessee about taking over operation and management of the club property, including the clubhouse. Times are challenging for folks in the golf business, so we're diligently pursuing that. I apologize, sir, if you're not getting information, if you feel that you're not receiving information properly,
I
please.
sent you an email and you never responded.
Okay, well, perhaps I didn't get it, because I normally reply to all my emails, so.
Dennis, are you cutting the oak trees that are destroying homes?
The oak trees are in the process of being cut. We have, we're out to proposals right now for different vendors as to what the cost would be to do that. We're well aware of your issue with your client there. And so as soon as we have proposals, the board will be making a choice, and we will be hiring somebody to trim the oak trees within the club property that need trimming. So we are diligently pursuing that.
So you're maintaining where I would spend most of my time, in the out of bounds area, which would be, you know, away
But
the houses.
all of the
that
property
area.
is being mowed. It certainly looks laid better than it did under the prior owner. We had a company come in and trim down a lot of the underbrush that had grown up around the lake banks and in some of the retention areas. So we're not maintaining it as a golf course. That's never what we promised the residents that we would do. But we did promise minimum maintenance, and we are doing that, so. Be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
I've heard that there's potentially another golf course company that you've been talking with, is that?
That is correct. We are in negotiations with another local operator here that has interest in taking over the club property and operating it, so. Should have that hopefully finalize the lease documents in the next 30 days. So I just spoke with our attorney today. He's hoping to have a draft lease for us. Mr. Hardeman, you'll be getting a copy of that just to review to make sure that there's nothing in there inconsistent with the agreement that we have with the city.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
And has the city gone out there, and read the property and looked at anything since some of this?
I've been out there a couple of times. It's been probably 6-8 months since I've been out there, but Dennis and I rode around on a couple of different.
Be happy to give any right around out here.
and
Yeah,
let's look at it.
I can also tell you that we've been assisting with the removal of some of the vegetative debris out there, so there's certainly some debris coming from somewhere, because it's been
There was
rather large volume.
at least 2.5 years of palm fronds and lots of other debris that needed to be addressed, but we've done that.
Okay, maybe we can get out there and take a look and see what we need to do.
We can certainly.
Be happy to give Mr. Williams a tour and any of the rest of the commissioners if you would desires.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? With that, we will close the public hearing. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
See, this is probably a challenging issue because you've got a diverse group of residents, you've got retirees on a fixed income, you've got people that want to have the property fixed up looking sharp, and those two things cost different amounts of money to do. So finding common ground and moving as much as we can, and even in the future, looking at something like Mr. Cressman said is a possibility with the way we've written the ordinance, but we want to have a majority of the people on board. I think they would like to see a more solid plan if there was going to be something come before the commission. Or what we did is the drawback I've seen from this and what the community has seen is we thought we were going to get this fell through. You know, and there's no qualms on the company just walked away from the deal. And so now you're trying to pick up the pieces as a community and do the best thing you can do. And that's what City of Winter Garden will be your partner going forward with that. If you have something that's better, we'll look at it. And we're here for you. With that, I will approve resolution
2204.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
2204.
We have a motion to approve resolution 2204. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Hopefully we'll address your problems, issues out there.
Well, just so you know, it's not our house, I mean, it's somebody else's.
I
That, you know, and a lot of people live there that cannot afford that, it's not a financial issue for us, and I just don't think that, and I know this isn't the right corner, my husband's sitting here yelling at me, but I think you guys need to understand as a commission that, there are people that are gonna be very much financially impacted, and you're being lied to. The HOA is not maintaining the property. They've cut a few
We'll
palm
go
trees
out
and
there
they've cut
and-
some grass, so you need to go out there.
We'll go out there, definitely. Next week. Yes, sir. Okay, we'll go out there next week.
Resolution 22-05.
Yes, sir, resolution 22-05, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Winter Garden, Florida, relating to the funding of repair and restoration of the stormwater and drainage management infrastructure and systems on, about, or within the Lakeview Reserve subdivision lots 1 through 159 inclusive, as recorded in plat book 46 pages 149 through 151 of the public records of Orange County, Florida, establishing annual assessments for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, approving an assessment roll for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2022, establishing the lien associated therewith, directing that the assessment roll be certified to the Orange County Tax Collector, providing for collection of the assessments pursuant to Florida's Uniform Assessment Collection Act, and providing for severability, conflicts, and an effective date.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, this is another special assessment. This one is for the Lakeview Reserve community, as per the agreement between the city and HOA for the drainage management system. And we agreed that back in the previous meeting. This resolution is the second public hearing, which adopt the special assessment and staff recommends approval.
Questions from the commission?
Just a couple of comments there. I want to first thank the director. Great job on this one. Really all of it was appreciated. Equally so, city manager, who spent a good part of the Saturday meeting with all the residents, brought Mr. Beasley out, the other gentleman out as well. So we can answer a lot of questions, and we actually went to some homes and visited afterwards. This is certainly the right thing to do, not only for the community, but we run water through that community. So these pipes do need to be fixed, and I think it was a very fair deal. So nice job, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? This is a public hearing, then we'll open a public hearing if anyone wishes to speak. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. My name is Rhonda Johnson. I reside at 140 Lakeview Reserve Boulevard in Winter Garden, Florida. I will admit that I've probably been out of the loop on some of the HOA negotiations. I've been in my house for 19 years, so I'm not new to the community, and we do own our house. So there's been a lot over the years about the roads and the drainage and losses and all kinds of different things that we've gone through. And some, I saw this and I'm like, is there another one? So we have $6,300. I guess we're paying for close to $1 million over the next 20 years. And we're being special assessed each lot $6,300 over the next 20 years. So one, I really don't care to have a lien on my property that I've owned for 19 years. Secondly, an extra $300 a year doesn't seem like a ton. But when cauliflower is $5.64 a head, it starts to like get a little bit picky over just $300. So my concern is things are already hard. Things are already going up. I'm not in any danger of losing my home, thank God, or anything like that. But everything is going up except the wages. Gas is going up, cauliflower is going up. Has anyone tried to find chicken breast anywhere? So we already have issues. And so an extra $300 a month, I am opposed to that. And so I was just wondering if there were any other way, like, I know we've had HOA meetings, but as far as paperwork, and I will admit, I'm not the best with mail, but this kind of caught my attention. So is there anything else to show we found a different way? The fair deal that you're referring to, sir, what is the fair deal? Is the city paying some of that and the the 989,000 is just the leftovers, or, because I live in the garden, pay my taxes, work hard, all of that. So just kind of to see what other options were on the floor before this was agreed.
Yes, sir. When we evaluated the system, you could look at doing a traditional removal, which would require excavation, which would be a much more costly approach to fixing this drainage problem that is existing. The HOA and the residents actually have the ultimate responsibility for maintenance and repair of the master of the stormwater system. So in evaluating this over the long term, with the traditional dig up and replace, we looked at doing slip lining. I felt like it would certainly save the residents money over the long run. And through that, we recognized that there is a main pipe that runs down Lakeview Reserve Boulevard that actually conveys water off of the system. And so there's a benefit to the city by us coming in and being a participant in this overall project. And that's where we decided that there was a value of about $800,000 in cash that we would make to this project. And then we would offer another $800,000 that would be repaid over an assessment. And in evaluating that, we decided to do an interest-free loan, which we technically can't do. So when you look at the amortization tables associated with this, we've actually lowered the overall principal amount and assessed an implied interest rate. So that the actual value with actual repayment with the principal and interest over the 20-year period will not exceed $800,000. So at this point, and given the condition of the actual stormwater system, I'm not sure that you have a whole lot of flexibility in waiting any further to move on this. I know the timing's not great, but if you have an actual failure of the system and you have to mobilize crews, residents in and of themselves may bear 100% of that responsibility.
I think that's the point that you want to reiterate is if you had a failure today, the HOA and you as the residents are responsible for a major catastrophe. This averts it and spreads that cost over 20 years.
So we did go through a lawsuit with Miranda Homes, and we did win a amount that has been banked. And it was a sizable amount. Maybe not, I'm not sure what the amount was. I'm sure I have the paperwork somewhere, but we wouldn't bear 100% of it because I guess just the math isn't quite adding up. So 800,000 is what you're contributing, and we're still contributing. My letter says, you said not to exceed 800,000, but my letter says $989,875.
That was an earlier letter that went out. There was a revision to that for lowering this and making this interest free. So that's I think that was the very first letter that went out.
It's now 800,000.
Okay.
And so per parcel, it will be $5,031.45, which equates to $251.57 a year per parcel.
Okay, and so is the money that we have in reserve a part, like taken out of this total amount, or how does that work?
No, so there's extra costs associated with this project that the HOA is responsible for. There's some under drains that have to be inspected, possibly replaced, but as part of this, they're also coming in and resurfacing your roads. And that's where the HOA is responsible for.
They being, I'm sorry.
They being the HOA. The homeowners association.
I understand what HOA means. I'm just trying to figure out, is the money that we won from the lawsuit deducted from this total amount that we're gonna be special assessed?
I heard you in touch with your HOA.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know
Okay.
your HOA.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Dean Hubbard, and I live at 165 Lakeview Reserve. I've lived there for 20 years. So I know what the neighborhood was like in the beginning, just about. It's been there for, I think, since 2001 or so. Anyhow, as she mentioned, this drainage issue has been a problem from day one. The developer didn't develop the land properly, and that's where this lawsuit came from, Miranda Homes and the developer and so forth. So, and I don't know a lot of details. I haven't been going to a lot of HOA meetings too, but So from what I understand, I guess there's been a revision, if I just understand, on what the original amount was, of this $311. Okay, and it's been down to $251, I think, right? Okay.
change.
And it's not gonna be the 6,300 or whatever it's been reduced.
55.
You know, we don't have that, is that gonna be a new letter coming out, I guess, for the homeowners?
It'll be on your tax bill.
Okay, yeah. So I guess my question is it the HOA board that will make a decision on this, special assessment, or is it the commissions that do it?
I thought that the majority of the residents had.
They've already voted.
Okay, so anyhow, all right, apologize for not knowing. Anyhow, so I know it has to be done. You know, we went at least 21 years like this, and something has to be done. Like we said, our options are limited. I don't think it's actually fair that the homeowners have to take the brunt of this when we had a lawsuit, got money from that, but if we have limited options, you know, I don't know what else to say about it. I'm not necessarily in agreement with it, but something has to be done. And, I don't know if this gets approved, when this is all supposed to take place and how long it's going to take. You know, unless that will be discussed later.
Contracts have been executed. This is the final step in the process. The contractor's ready to start. I think they've already actually been out there doing some cleaning of the system. Materials have been ordered, so we'll be sending out notices of construction probably within the next 2 weeks. And we'll have
Gotcha. So another question I had too, if you don't mind me asking, if you don't know, that's okay, but like we have a few different, what they call quote unquote dry retention ponds, and I don't know if those would be cleaned up too, if that's part of the street infrastructure.
I didn't hear you.
So we have what's called dry retention ponds. They hold water, but they don't hold body water for a long period of time. And they've been overflowed with soot for a long, long time, many years, and they're out of whack too. So I don't know if that's part of this infrastructure rebuilding too.
Part of the scope of work does require them to inspect the under drain system and replace it if necessary. And that's the initial portion that the homeowners association will be responsible for.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
John, it's just so I'm clear, because I can tell we're dealing with this, I think, I was on the P&Z board 8 years ago. This was a private system that the HOA had responsibility for, and the city stepped in to help for the most part.
That is correct.
Yep.
Sorry, sir.
No, I'm saying.
So there was no financial obligation on the city's part, really. I mean, we want to do right by the citizens, obviously. Okay, I just wanted to.
Well, I think the financial, when they came in, is that we had a main line going down there, so it was also to our benefit to make sure that it flowed freely.
Yes.
Yes, so that's where we, as a city, I think, came in.
So, yeah, when if you recall back when the stormwater rates were adjusted, one of the provisions that we included with that adjustment gave us the flexibility to go into private communities to provide a benefit to those communities in the event there was an interest in public safety. Now, if you went back and looked at all the documents that are approved, that the HOA is actually responsible for the entire master system. But with that ordinance change, that's where every that's been.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other comments up here? We'll close the public hearing. Are there any other questions, comments from the commission? We need a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 2205.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.